Caddyshack's not a sports movie. It isn't. Nick Turturro understands. Is Nick on the phone line right now?
Yeah, great point by Don here. You can't. There's no movie Caddyshack without the golf.
I understand.
Without the sports.
Is Nick Turturro on the phone right
he's
now?
on.
Our friend or the actor Nick
Good morning.
Turturro.
How are you?
Nick, we're already starting this thing off. Sports movies. How would you? We're saying? Would you say Caddyshack is a sports movie, Nick?
Caddyshack is not a sports movie, no.
Okay, Slapstick, is that a sports movie?
You mean Slapshot?
Slapshot, yeah, sorry, Slapshot, not Slapsticks. Yeah, Slapshot. Is that a sports movie?
Slapshot's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a sports movie,
about
right?
Hockey. Yeah, it's a sports movie.
Right,
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Yes, Slapshot is...
Slapshot is not about that's a comedy that's got hockey in it.
Oh, my gosh.
Miracle on Ice is a
you're
sports
wrong.
movie.
You're wrong. It's a dark comedy, but it's about hockey.
Right.
And it's about hockey in the 70s, which was very edgy.
It's I think it's a sports...
Nick's got a...
So that's what I'm saying, is that Caddyshack is not a sports movie. Slapshot is a sports movie.
More of a sports movie.
Absolutely. What are you chiming in over there? You disagree with this conversation?
I mean, I just think without golf, there's no movie Caddyshack. It's
Exactly.
Just, you know what I mean?
First of all, golf is really not even a sport.
There we go.
Nick Turturro has showed up, everybody.
No. I mean, it's really not a sport. It's a game.
Come on.
You know, if you want to get technical, I mean, I enjoy it. They consider it sports, but it's more of a game because you don't have to be a great athlete to play that game.
So athletics and being able to so if you could play so let me phrase this the proper way. So if you are playing in a competition as an overweight individual, that means you're not playing in a sport. You're playing in a game. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that you don't have to be a great athlete. You could be a fat guy and be a good athlete, but what I'm saying is that's really not a true test of being a great athlete. Because you could play pool, doesn't mean I have a friend who played pool, but he wasn't a good athlete. He played pool. But it's a game. It's not really a sport. You don't got to run. You don't got to jump. You don't got to catch. You got a skill, right? You can hit that ball. You got a skill with that iron. It doesn't make you a great athlete. That's why it's deceiving when they call it, the great. You can't consider golf a real true sport.
What about racing? What about automobile racing? What about NASCAR? What do you think about that, Nick?
That's another one that kind of baffles me because it is a skill. Now, I don't know how you consider it sports, but it is a skill.
Okay.
But I don't look at I don't know, NASCAR it's a select thing. I don't know. I don't quite put it in like, watching sports.
Okay, so Days of Thunder is a skill movie.
Yeah. That's the Nick Turturro. That's my category. That's the way I look at it.
Fantastic.
I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, too. How's life for you, Nick?
Yeah.
You good? Everything good in your neck of the woods? Your family?
Yeah, life is okay. It's a weird time. And, I'm surviving this thing. I think a lot of us are, but it's bizarre. It's like the Twilight Zone.
You must be missing baseball like crazy, too, right now, I imagine.
Oh, I've caught up on a lot of old games, reminiscing, thinking about – it makes you think about life a lot this time, because it's like we take everything for granted. We take – and now this kind of smacks you in the face and you go, what is this? What is the new normal? What does that mean? And so now I get up and I put on an old game, and it brings me back, and I'm thinking a lot about my life because I reminisce a lot. My brother's like, you always reminisce, Nick. You reminisce. So now I got a time to reminisce. Like today I turned on the MLB Network, and there it was, 2003, Game 3, the Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens game. I was at that game, great game. So he brings back a lot of great games for me that I was at, that I watched as a kid. But I'm missing it, yeah. I like it to come back, but I don't know how you play sports without fans.
Yeah,
I just don't understand. I don't really get that.
I hear you, Nick. You better get used to it. That's the one thing. That's the one thing you better get used to because the number of people that keep asking me, is sports going to come back or our league's going to come back, or is that going to happen? And my answer is, I think so, yes. And then the answer is with fans, and I'm like, that you could pretty much say for the moment 100% is not happening, So.
Yeah. No, I understand, and I accept it. I mean, I watched a UFC fight a few weeks ago. It was Tony Ferguson and Gaethje, and it was weird. Nobody in the crowd, no audience. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was weird. So I guess you're going to have to somehow train your head to I had an idea, like maybe if they had like maybe one fan at a stadium, like I could represent like the Yankee game. Maybe I could represent Yankee fans with like a bunch of cutouts. You could put one guy in there in the middle just for some energy,
Yes.
But they probably wouldn't go for it,
Well, Nick, you could have to be careful because certainly you'd be able to, be heard. You know what I mean? Like easier than before. So you definitely. The way that your Twitter account normally would work during a Yankee game, I think you'd have to be very careful during an actual game if you're the only fan in the stands.
Yeah, but I could control. I could curb it a little bit. I don't have to really I could just be a cheerleader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could be like the tenth man.
The 10th.
Like if you put me in the dugout or something. Like if I was in the Yankee dugout, I think I could actually inspire them, and I could. I don't have to be crude.
Right.
I don't have to offend anybody.
You don't have to work.
Everybody's offended. The whole world is offended by having a point of view today.
Well,
You're a little harsh. I'm like, I'm not that harsh. It's just real.
You are very
just real. I just tell it like it is. I mean, that's what I love about hearing these old broadcasts. They're great because you hear all these. The guys were like normal. They were natural. They were organic. And Bill White, he was asking Thurman Munson when they won the World Series, like, you think you want to be a Yankee next year? And I'm like, Bill, why are you asking Thurman that?
So you're seeing old Yankee games like that? That's sort of I'd pay to see that. Man.
The Reggie game, and then Bill White was asking. It's weird. Like you saw Billy Martin after they won the championship, and he looks depressed. Not depressed, but he looks like relieved. I don't know, like he was so stressed out from that year. It wasn't like today they're wearing goggles and it's all kind of manufactured. Guys were like more normal back then. It was a different time,
Oh, sure. I mean, you're seeing in The Last Dance, Jordan looked totally spent after winning a championship. He wins
exactly.
He wins 3 in a row, and first one was joy, second one was overjoy, third one was relief.
Right.
You seeing that?
I just started watching. I got about 4 in, and it's so good. It kind of brings you back to the NBA. Before the Bulls conquered, you had the Lakers, the Celtics, then the bad boy Pistons, the thugs that they were, and then the whole Jordan thing. You kind of felt, you felt at the beginning you felt like happy for Jordan when he finally broke through and they beat those bullies, and then they swept the Lakers, and then I didn't even realize the triangle came from this guy named Tex, guy named of all people Tex, created the trend, and then what do you call ran with it? Phil Jackson. You got to remember Phil Jackson. Was bohemian, kind of a real hippie guy, but smart. Played under Ren Holtzman, and he played on those smart Knick teams. So he was always like a guy ahead of his time.
Hey man, you kind of hit on something. Nick Turturro here on the Rich Eisen Show. You kind of hit on something here, Nick. That for Knicks fans to see a guy from the Red Holtzman, Clyde Frazier, Bill Bradley, Dave DeBusschere era, coaching Michael Jordan, ripping out the Knicks' best chances to win a championship since the Red Holtzman years, heart, and show it to him pumping. That was awful tough for me to handle as it was happening, and then reliving it. You're going to see in upcoming episodes, man. It's tough. Charles Smith still trying to make a layup. The number of times that the Knicks almost had this team and could not. Jordan returning from his hiatus, dropping 55 in the Garden within a week. I mean, that sort of stuff is tough to relive, Nick. So beware.
It is. But then again, you got to kind of embrace what the Knicks were then in the 90s. The Knicks were very entertaining. They were a very likable, lunch pail team. And unfortunately, they were facing, Michael Jordan, who was a different animal. And Knicks fans, including myself, were frustrated watching him because he became a different animal. And he was a stone blood, cold killer. And, something you'll never see again. I mean, the closest probably was Kobe. I mean, LeBron is not that. So, You know, he's just not that guy. This guy, his drive, what he, you know, I mean, it wasn't even all talent. That's what this thing kind of shows you, that he had the talent, but the guy was a killer on so many levels. It's an interesting show. It really is, because it, you know, you don't realize that was a real deep kind of time. You know, I mean, basketball was everything was more interesting. Had edge. You know, today that's the problem. We don't have any, you know, everything's watered down today. Everything's nice. Everybody's hugging and kissing. I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like, you know, I'm glad that I was showing my son last night. He was like, wow. I said, you see that? You don't know. Other things happened before you existed, you know?
Way to pass it down, Nick. It's Nick Turturro here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, I want to give you the floor on what you texted me about. You texted me last night. You're like, hey, I lost a friend. And a lot of people know who this friend is, the former WWE star. May he rest in peace, Shad Gaspard. I give you the floor on how you got to know him and what you'd like to say about him, Nick.
Yeah, I just he's a guy that really became a friend, who really kind of touched me as a person. A great spirit. I met him at the Wild Card West Gym, which is now the Churchill Gym. Pete Berg owns it, and also my friend Mark Kriegel kind of brought me down there. My son learned how to box there, and I first met Shad Gaspard there. He's kind of a bigger-than-life guy. Didn't really know him, and little by little, you know, we became friends. He was kind of a big dreamer, a guy that had, you know, wanted always to make everybody smile, and he was more than just a big, you know, guy. He was talented. He was smart. He was a good actor. He was in comedies. He was developing a wrestling pilot that I did a reading for him. More recently, a couple of months back, I did a reading of a little pilot that I'm developing called Band of Idiots. He came over, read a role for me. He was that kind of guy. And then, you know, he sacrificed his life to his son on Sunday. I guess got caught in a riptide. And they told the lifeguard to take his son first. And, you know, then they grabbed his son. He pushed his son. He lived for his kid. He not only was a great guy and a good friend, but he was a great dad. And then the riptide hit him. And in a matter of seconds, you know, I had an experience at 17 in Long Beach, Long Island. I could barely swim. Got caught in an undertow, and lifeguards, luck, I wouldn't be here. But for him, you know, to go down like that, you know, he just thought of other people first. And you imagine, you know, you're confronted with that. Most people might panic and say, hey, help. Hey, he had the sense to say, save my son. And, you know, now he's not here. And it's just the whole situation. But he was just a beautiful guy. And then you just question, like, you know what this life is about. I don't know. And I just feel like heartbroken about him, you know, and his son. You know, I tell you, it really hit me hard, hit my son hard. And, you know, we're only passing through, man. But he was a guy that passed through my life and became a friend. He was on my podcast. You know, he turned me upside down to cure my vertigo one day. He picked me up like he's a mountain of a man. And I just can't put my arms around that. Like, he's gone. I was watching the videos last night I had of him. So I just wanted to pay tribute to him. I know a lot of people are. The Rock, even Dwayne Johnson said, you know, it's a hard thing to understand or accept right now, because he was kind of bigger than life. And you feel like people like that are invincible. You know, you look at people like that. I looked at my father like that, and maybe you didn't. You know, I know recently you lost your dad.
Yes.
So, but no, I just really, it got me, and it got me down about, you know, just like why, you know, why you question things like, you know, I don't know about this, you know, it's your time, it's this, it's that. I don't know if I just think this life is what it is, and it's, you know, you pass through. It's a gift to be here, and you just don't know.
Well,
and
I mean, when you want to,
I don't know.
Yeah, I know when you think of people like that, I guess one way to help get through the questions of why is remembering the good times, right? And remembering things of like him thwarting an armed robbery in 2016 in Florida, and doing the things that delighted people as well as living life the way that he did. What do you mean he picked you up to relieve you of vertigo, Nick?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I'll tell you what happened.
Uh-huh.
I had vertigo one time, which was terrible. You know, very. If you ever had it, it's awful. You're nauseous, you're dizzy, and I had it for like a week. And went to a doctor one time, and he goes, "Oh, you got vertigo?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I can help you." You know, he was a head doctor, and he's laying at the end of it, laying on the table, and he turned me over, and he goes, "Just close your eyes, and there's a way to do it. Like where you turn the guy over on a table for like 30 seconds, 40, and it's these little particles or something that they can kind of go back in your head." I mean, I don't understand it. I'm not a head doctor,
right.
But it helped. You know, and you got to close your eyes. And so we were shooting this thing, School for Boys, this little spec pilot over here at Crespi in Encino, and he was playing a teacher, and we had some funny scenes together. So I was getting a touch of it, and I go outside Crespi, and then Shad is out there with me, and they said, "Hey, Shad, I'm going to lay on a table. Turn me over," because he's a big guy. You know, I said, "Turn me over, and maybe you could cure this vertigo is coming on." So he goes, "No, come here." He put his hands between my crotch, picked me up. I didn't expect it. I go, if you filmed it, it would have been fantastic. People would have been dying laughing. He picked me up between my crotch, like a twig. Just imagine, and turned me over like in a sudden movement, upside down in such a, vulnerable position. You had to see it. He turned me so quick, and then I was like, whoa, my whole head went, got raked, and I was like, he cured me. It was coming on. I said, well, whatever you did, Shad, you turned me quickly, violently. It was a violent move, but a beautiful move. And we tried to recreate it on the podcast one time, but it wasn't half as funny. He's a very funny guy, He was always talking about how big he was, and it was hilarious because I'd be like, I know you're big. You don't got to keep telling me how big you are. I'd love to like feel him and touch him. I like big guys. I like to, I'm not, fruity that way, funny that way, whatever. But I gotta get a kick out of squeezing him and stuff. Come here, you big, a big lug. And, but, heart of gold, a deep thinker, smart guy. And like I say, he was developing this terrific wrestling pilot. I'm glad that you gave me a chance to at least just to pay a little tribute to my friend, because I know it's a hard time for his family. I know we all got to try to be there for his wife and his son, who I can't imagine.
I can't imagine either.
I can't imagine what he's going through.
10 years old.
And I'm just
10 years old.
Yeah, I know. It's just, this life. Who can explain it? I don't know how you got here. I don't know how I got here. But we got here somehow. We had parents, how they got here. You think about it and you go like, wow. And then, one day it's going to go on without me, And like you think like, the whole world is about, But this was a guy that loved people, that thought about people. And like you say, he stopped the robbery. He helped friends. He cured my vertigo. Whatever. He made you laugh. He was always happy. He was always up. And I'm like, I wish I could be more like that, and have that kind of courage. He really did. I mean, he was that guy that had that. I mean, I think there are special people in life that have certain gifts, They touch you in a way that you go, that guy, wow, I wish I could be more like that guy, So, it's tough. Every time I think about him, I get like, I'm like, oh man, this doesn't feel real.
No, I know,
but,
and that's
what is
I know,
real,
I know exactly.
What is really real?
I know, Nick, and it's in these times obviously make you wonder what is. But I know when you reached out and you're like, hey, would you want to say some words about him? I'm like, why don't you, and you do it, and you did a great job, Nick. And I appreciate you.
I mean, this is not my forte. I'm not somebody that gets up there and gives speeches about people.
No, I know.
I mean, I can talk. You want to talk about baseball or movies, I could talk to the morning. You know what I mean? I could talk to the sunrise.
Right.
But when it comes to being eloquent or being, very, cohesive with my words. As a matter, I probably would call on somebody like my brother, who's more of a brain person.
Right.
Right. I got a brain, but it works in a different way.
By the way, you're going to see. You're going to see some "Do the Right Things" stuff coming up very soon on the Last Dance too. You'll see some of the stuff. Speaking of your brother.
Oh wow! I can't wait.
Oh yeah.
Do they touch on the baseball stuff too? And they play baseball and all that?
Yes. Oh, big time. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll see that. You'll see him at the Birmingham Barons.
I'm a little behind you guys, but I'm into it.
You got it. Hey Nick, you take care of yourself. Be well. You and your family.
Thank you, Rich.
We'll catch up.
You guys are the best.
Right back at you.
I love you guys.
Breaking Bread with Nick Turturro is his
brother.
podcast, and we'll get Nick back on when baseball gets back on. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.